I was on my feet for 2 days at the Sea Otter Classic, so there was one thing I was really glad to see, and that was the Floyds of Leadville tent. The crew was there, Floyd was there, and I happily sank into one of their soft chairs and put up my feet.
You were relaxing and recovering. Hottie was at the Bike Expo to gather some intel and promote the show. Of course, Hottie, you were not bike racing, but the meet and greet stuff can wear you down every bit as much, especially for an old masters athlete like yourself.
Oh, yeah. It's a grind. It's a grind. Gets us to Floyd's. You know, the crew took one look at me and said, "Here, take this packet of CBD gems and chomp on one while you take a load off." And that's exactly what I did.
And that must have been one of their on-the-go packets with the lower dose, the 10 milligram gems. Those are perfect for when you need to take the edge off, but you've still got to keep moving. Most of Floyd CBD has a dosage of 25 milligrams or more, so these little 10 milligram gems are just that. They're gems for when you need a little relief, but your day has not reached the rest and recovery part quite yet.
Exactly. So thanks to Floyd's of Leadville for being there when I needed them. And look, you don't have to go to Sea Otter and wear yourself out at the expo to get a little Floyd. Just go to floydsofleadville.com, stock up and use the code FATTY at checkout for a 15% discount.
And thanks to Floyd's of Leadville for being the title sponsor of this show.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Floyd's of Leadville. It is season 4, episode 27 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Houghton, Hottie to most.
And I am Fatty to everyone. There were 3 tandems that finished the 2021 Leadville Trail 100, and in this episode, we are talking to one of those teams. Now, Hottie, I've ridden geared bikes at Leadville, single speeds, full suspension, front suspension, and like you, no suspension. I have paced another rider. I've done practically everything, but I have never raced it tandem style. So this episode, I'm going to learn a lot, and I think it's going to be a treat for all of our listeners.
Yeah, I know I learned something. I know that for sure, in fact. Brent Davis and Michelle Schwartz will talk to us tandem style, coming up in a few. First, Fatty, you have been working real hard on the Leadville 100 mountain bike podcast kit. Jerseys, shorts, accessories, you and DNA have been busy, man. Do I need a drum roll here now?
Well, keep the drums on standby, but yes, although I want to correct you on something, I have actually not been working hard. DNA has definitely been working hard, and that's kind of the point. We've got some great news. Our listeners know that for the past few weeks, we've had a poll up to help determine which of 3 fantastic designs we were going to choose as our Leadville podcast kit, and of course, the t-shirt design for this year. And you know which one our listeners chose?
I do. It was, in fact, a photo finish between the orange and black kit and the blue and magenta with the audio wave on it. The two were literally within 0.5% of each other. So, which one out? I guess this is where the drum roll comes in.
Yeah. The fact is, they both won. We realized that with DNA Cycling Custom handling our design, production, ordering, and fulfillment, there was no reason we should not have these 2 very different kits this year. And so we do. And they are available for pre-order now at leadville.fm/kit.
And that's a remarkable thing, Fatty. DNA has gone from a set of jersey designs to 2 sets of fully developed kits, jerseys, bibs, socks, arm warmers, t-shirts, along with a store for ordering in about 2 days.
Yeah. 2 full designs in men's Century and BioFit sizing, as well as women's jerseys, as well as bibs with both men's and women's chamois, and matching arm warmers for each kit, and matching socks and t-shirts to round out the themes. A lot there, and it was easy for us.
And apart from offering preferences and suggestions, Fatty and I have done very little work to make all of this happen.
Yeah. So we're going to ask you now, go. Pause the podcast. Go to leadville.fm/kit and pre-order your kit. It is a great way to support one of our sponsors as well as Hadi and me. And it is an incredible kit that is going to be ready for you to wear right when next season begins.
One more time, our Leadville podcast kit is available for pre-order now at leadville.fm/kit. All right, Fatty, I have ridden Tandem once. Mrs. Hadi and I tested our marriage on a very short, very old Tandem. It went fine, but man, I don't know about 105 miles on one of those things.
Yeah, I'm with you. My Tandem experience is also limited, but I've always been fascinated by the people who decide the best way to conquer the Leadville 100 is by riding together on the same bike. So we tracked down one of 3 Tandem teams that finished this year's Leadville 100 to get the lowdown on what it takes to race this thing as a shared experience. Brent Davis and Michelle Schwartz both had Leadville experience on an individual level, but they decided to test their athleticism and their relationship by taking on the race across the sky on a Tandem. Brent and Michelle from Team Chicken Dick. Welcome to the Leadville podcast. It is great to have you here.
Thank you very much. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
So I'm tempted to ask what's behind the name, but I think I pretty much understand.
Well, I'll tell you. When racing, when a man gets passed by a woman, it's called getting chicked. When a woman gets passed by a man, they call it getting dicked. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this will be an interesting play on words. So that's how it came out.
We might have been drinking that night, but I don't know.
And what does it mean when you get Tandem? Because that is what happened here. Brent and Michelle, we're having you on the show, of course, because we want to hear your story about racing the Leadville 100. But I think before we even get to that, we want to hear about each of the two of you and honestly how you met, because that is a Leadville story of its own.
Well, I'll go first since I interrupted. I started going to Leadville in the early 90s. My first wife got a job living and working in Leadville because her company was a contractor for the EPA, and there was some pretty serious environmental testing going on, and she was involved in that. And so I would go to Leadville to visit her and play in the mountains, kind of in spite of the horrible headaches I'd get because I lived in the Midwest at the time. And so I just learned to love it. And then we'd come to Colorado for vacations and always went to Leadville. And we weren't doing quite the endurance thing then, but I just developed a love for Leadville that way.
I went to the running camp in 2003, and I met my husband there. We were actually running down the road after a fish hatchery, and we met at running camp. And after that, we were just hooked. And, we got married in Leadville. We raced in Leadville, and I got married, and then I placed his ashes on top of Hope Pass. He passed away 4 years ago. But we met and fell in love in Leadville and raised our kids up there, and we just fell in love with the town and the culture and the energy of racing in Leadville. So I've been fortunate to be able to do the run 7 times, and this was my first mountain bike ride in honor of my husband, because he tried to get into the mountain bike race and he never did. So it was just fun to meet Brent and have that in common, that Leadville, that connection, because not a lot of people do, although the more people you meet at Leadville, they all have a Leadville story. So I think we come full circle in Leadville just for our love for the race. And the fact that we did on a tandem was hilarious. And we had so much fun. It was more fun than I thought it would be. So it's full circle.
and I'll add, too, that my first wife subsequently passed away, too. So that's a connection that we have kind of an understanding of each other that not everybody has, you know.
So Brent, you have raced the Leadville Trail 100 as a solo rider, correct? How long did it take you to figure out, oh, there's a mountain bike race thing here, and maybe I'd like to get involved?
Well, I did the event for my first time in 1999, and it was kind of different then. There were 600 riders, and I entered by mail, you know, sent a check, and it was all by mail. And I, again, still lived in the Midwest, and I came out to race, and I didn't even know there were cutoff times. I had no idea what I was getting into, and that was probably good. I was too dumb to know I couldn't do it. And I did buckle that year. So it really was a bigger deal than I even knew when I decided to do it. I did it again in about 2005 or 6 maybe, and lotteried in, and I was in the back corral, and I got in the traffic jam at the bottom of St. Kevin's and missed the first cutoff. So it was a totally different experience from the first time I did it to the second time I did it. And, you know, then it's like, oh, I'm never doing that again. But, of course, here I am on Tandem. I don't know what I was thinking that time either.
Something different. We wanted to do something different, you know. We wanted to do it together, though.
And then, Michelle, you obviously know Leadville quite well. How many run finishes do you have there?
I finished 7 times, and I'm going to do the run and bike this year. Took a few years off for, you know, had a few health problems, and now I'm just getting back on track again and looking forward to doing the run again. It's been a few years.
The fact that the two of you have both done the Leadville 100, but each of you have done, you know, a different Leadville 100, one of you on bike, one of you on foot, and then decided together for our first time, let's do this on a tandem.
And we've talked about that, and it's like, whose idea was that? And she says, oh, I think it was yours. And it's like, no, I think that was your idea. So I don't even remember how it came about. We've cycled together quite a bit because I'm a cyclist, and Michelle has a lot of saddle time too, but I'm not a runner. So we don't really run together. So cycling is something we do together, and we got a tandem. I have like extensive tandem experience, but never anything like that. So we got this tandem, and it was a pretty good bike, but I'll just say it was not a climbing bike. So it's like, okay, let's do it on tandem. But it's like, no, we can't ride this bike. So we had to gear up, and it's just kind of a whole big evolution thing. And if you've tried to get a bike in the last few months, it's just coming up with a set of wheels is really hard. So it was quite a challenge, but you know, even Leadville's always a challenge, even sometimes just getting to the starting line.
But I have to say, doing on a tandem, the comments that people were saying to us as we were riding, I could not stop laughing. They were all like, "Are you guys married?" And we're like, "No, we're not. That's why we're doing it on a tandem." We still like each other, you know, but the jokes were really funny and they were really inspiring, and people were just loved, you know, this puts a smile on people's faces when they see two crazy people on a tandem. So.
It sounds like this decision to go tandem is recent. Like you guys decided was this decision made to race the 2021 race?
Well, we were entered
as a tandem.
We were entered for 2020. So actually it was quite some time ago, but in retrospect, it's like, man, we would not have been ready to ride 2020. And so it was good that we deferred. We both got coaches, and we built up a custom tandem, and it was really quite a process. It was not a short-term goal at all. It took, you know, over a year to pull off.
So the pandemic worked out okay for you.
Actually, it worked. It made it so we could do it. And had it not been for the pandemic, it would never, I don't see how we could have pulled it off.
So tell us about your bike build, this custom bike that you've got.
Okay, I happen to work for a custom titanium bike manufacturing company. So, and this is an interesting story too. I work for Dean Titanium Bikes, and I don't know, John Segrest is my boss, and he's an icon of the sport. And so some time ago, before 2020, I'm like, hey, John, I'm doing Leadville on tandem. Can we build a tandem? He's like, no, we're not going to build a tandem here. He said, but I'll draw it for you. I'll design it for you, and you can get somebody else to build it. Well, then the pandemic happened, and our business went through a sale process, and a whole bunch of stuff happened, and it took him months and months. And finally, in May of 2021, he presents me with the drawings of my tandem. It's like, okay, well, let's try to get this thing built. Well, in May of 2021, everybody's like, no, we can't make it for August. Even like we have relationships with Santana and, even Asian firms, and it was like, no, sorry. So I think John felt guilty about taking so long. He said, okay, we'll build it here. So we built this beautiful custom Merlin Telluride extra light mountain tandem, and I was able to scrounge up the parts, and it's just absolutely a lovely piece of equipment.
And what were you riding in the build-up, no pun intended, to the Merlin being done? Did you guys have another bike to ride as together?
Well, we previously had a Fandango tandem, which was, again, a pretty good bike, but we sold it kind of some time ago just because, okay, we'll sell this one and start building another one, and that took so long. But we still rode singles, and, again, I have quite a bit of tandeming experience. It wasn't like I'd never done it before. And we had, we probably rode on the Leadville course, the whole course, at some time or another on the tandem before the race.
Just a few times on the tandem before the race. So we didn't really have a lot of time to really, because it was only, you finished the bike just a few weeks before the race.
We had about 6 weeks. We got the bike before the race, about 6 weeks.
Okay, so tell us how this worked. Tell us how this works. You decide you're going to race on a tandem. You've got the person up front, I think they're called the captain, and you have the stoker. Who takes charge here? Who gives orders? What's the role playing going on here?
Well, really, we happen to fall into that pretty naturally because I'm a long-term cyclist. I've done a lot of mountain biking. I'm good with the controls. I'm a pretty good bike handler. And Michelle likes to sit back there and pedal. So she's fine with pedaling because she's quite a good rider. And she doesn't try to tell me what to do. So, I get to kind of make the calls, which is good because Leadville on a tandem is a course that needs some focus. And it's not like I can, okay, what do you want to do now, honey? It's not like you can do that. It's like you need to roll through stuff and you need to just kind of go forward.
Yeah, I think you have to have a different paradigm when you're on a tandem. You just really have to, let yourself be free, and not have control issues, and which I don't. So, but I did close my eyes going down powerline. So, and parts of columbine, but that's okay. I didn't have to steer it. So, but yeah.
But also the tandem is very capable in obstacles. It rolls through stuff that the single bike doesn't, because its front wheel is in one zip code and its back wheel is in another zip code. So you're not getting it just is long and stable and traction's good and the front end stays down on climbs and it doesn't endo. So there are some advantages riding a tandem.
I've never thought about that, but you're right. It would take something to endo a tandem, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you probably have a lot bigger problems than the endo if you're doing that.
So take us to the starting line. Tell us about your day. Just tell us the story of your Leadville 100.
It could be probably the same story of half the field. We stayed in a little place downtown because we wanted to be close to the starting line. We just clipped in and rolled downhill to the starting line, and it was really exciting on the starting line. We had moved up into the purple corral, so we weren't in the very back. We were in the midst of things, and again, it was just the gun went off. When you hear that gun go off, your heart rate goes up a little, and just the fast ride down to Columbine, and we just tried to kind of keep it under wraps and keep the heart rates down and keep the excitement level down. It was chilly, of course.
I just had my mouth open the whole time, like, whoa! wow, this is so cool being here, and what a treat, not everyone gets to get into this race, so definitely had a lot of gratitude and a lot of good laughs. Just had a smile on my face the whole time. People were so nice out there, really encouraging and empowering. And we just laughed quite a bit with everyone out there. They were great.
And you always wonder what can go wrong. I'm a pretty good at detail preparation, and I feel like we were really well prepared. Our nutrition, we had a plan. Our equipment was in good shape. I tightened our cleats the night before, just attended to details. And what could possibly go wrong except I leave my 12-speed quick link on the kitchen table. But big deal. What are the odds of breaking a chain? Well, 100%. We broke a chain. Kind of at the top of Sugarloaf, as I recall.
Yeah.
And wait, that chain link was back on the kitchen table. It's like, yeah. So I immediately thought, well, our day's over. But it's like, no, it's not. And I just asked for a chain link, and about the third person who rode by stopped and gave me their SRAM Rainbow 12-speed chain link, gave it to me and rode on. And I fixed the chain, and we rode on. So that was an interesting little adventure.
How much time do you figure you lost there?
I say we lost about 2 minutes. Michelle says we lost. I'd say 5 to 8 minutes. I mean,
it felt like a long time. It takes
just a few minutes to fix a chain, but I'm a fairly well-versed bike mechanic and had a chain tool and know how to use it and knew what to do. So it went pretty fast.
Tell us about going up and over powerline on a tandem, going down that thing. Again, you said that tandem rolls through great, or the rough stuff, but I don't know. I just see a harrowing experience.
Yeah, I'm not a fearless descender. I'm just not. But if you remember, there was a lot of discussion about that big new obstacle. It's the drainage with the riprap in it. We rode that. We rode through that. And we had ridden it once in practice a few days before. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're riding that thing. And we did, and no problem. But about 100 feet past, I hit some marbles and we washed out the front end and wrecked in nothing, which was our first ever tandem wreck. And poor Michelle, she said, "Oh, I think I hit my head." I said, "Well, get on and we'll talk about your traumatic brain injury while we're riding." And it ended up, we were fine, just a couple little scuffs. But no, it descends very well. And of course, then we, rode the course, and there's quite a bit of hike-a-bike up Columbine.
Don't get ahead here, Michelle. Is that how you saw the crash?
I just knew something was going to happen on the course. You got to be open to every experience when you do Leadville, because a lot of things can happen out there. So I was fine with it. I've biked and run enough to know things happen. So we got back up and we were off to the races again. So luckily it didn't put us back too much. So
Fatty, a little personal note here. At the bottom of Powerline, which is where we are now with our happy couple, is a spot I know at least twice I have been lucky enough to get in a group with a tandem. And I'll tell you this, man, there's nothing better than jumping in with a tandem as you're going past the fish hatchery and down that paved section, because those folks motor. And I imagine they were doing the same.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that as well, Hottie, because I too have been lucky enough to tuck in behind a tandem where you have twice the power with a one-person wide footprint. I'm curious, how big of a train did you two create as you worked your way from the bottom of Powerline all the way to, I assume, all the way to Twin Lakes?
Well, actually, I was kind of surprised more people didn't jump on, but we did. We were in a group of 5 or 6 people that was, it was a nice, fast group. And yeah, we roll the flats pretty fast. So we were able to sit in and do our little pull. Actually, some hero was on the front who did all the pulling. And I'm not sure why. He must not have known we were back there, or, but yeah, we were popular and had a good ride until, the turnoff there off the pavement.
So a snap chain and a crash already in this race, but Brent and Michelle are still rolling strong. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a victory already. But there are 70 miles to go, so plenty more can and will happen to these two.
Yep, the single track Columbine, the return trip home. There's a lot of ground to cover. But I want to take a second here and jump back to Sea Otter. Sea Otter was canceled last year and delayed to October this year. And with the event planning for its normal dates in the spring of 2022, a lot of vendors just decided to skip this past iteration. But not Shimano. Shimano was on hand showing off a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, it looks like they had their normal full-size expo tent with a lot of excited riders gathering around it. And I would bet that one type of product in particular was getting a majority of the attention.
Indeed it was. The new Shimano 12-speed Di2 groups were the center of attention, and this was my first time to see them up close. I got to grab onto those Dura-Ace Di2 levers, which have been redone. The hoods are a little bigger to make space for improvements in the braking system, but they feel just superb. And Fatty, the brake contact point on both Dura-Ace and Ultegra is feeling much better.
I am so jealous because I still have not tried out that new Dura-Ace and Ultegra Di2 set, but someday soon, hopefully. Meantime, Shimano engineers were determined to get rid of some of that old lever lag to give roadies what us mountain bikers have had for a long time. That is, a little earlier grab and more consistent modulation.
I didn't get to ride the new Grupos either, but I could tell even in that static display that the grab portion of that upgrade is definitely there. So if you want to comb over all the Dura-Ace and Ultegra details, just go to bike.shimano.com. Fatty, I don't think we've ever followed up with your enve setup you did this past Leadville. I know you made some changes. I think you tried something a little different with your bar and stem positioning.
Yeah, well, basically I kind of gave in on my Specialized to how I had been very happy on my Niner. See, I'm an old dog, hottie. And my best old trick is standing and rowing on climbs, whether I am on a single speed or a geared bike. So as we got real close to the race, like uncomfortably close to the race, I swapped out my 760 millimeter M5 bar for a 780 millimeter M6 bar. And after a couple of rides with this way, I decided I wanted a little more rise in the cockpit. And I was able to do that without buying anything new. I just flipped my existing 100 millimeter stem. It's technically a road stem, but it works great as a mountain bike stem as well. And suddenly, instead of being -6 degrees, I've got 6 degrees of rise. And my bike is now a standing climber's delight. And a little bit easier on this old dog's back, since riding low and flat for 105 miles is no longer one of my available tricks.
We would advise that you not wait until a few days or even weeks before Leadville to make changes to your bar and stem position. Don't be like Fatty when it comes to that, but we say to be like Fatty when it comes to bar and stem brand. And again, that is enve. You'll find lots of combos on the site so you can get your stack and reach dialed. And they are all at enve. That's enve.com. Okay, our tandem is headed down Pipeline outbound. Aboard it, Brent Davis, and he's out in front, a.k.a. the captain, and Michelle Schwartz on the back, making her the stoker and chief spokesperson. So, Michelle, as you folks are motoring along, do you talk with Brent? Do you talk with other riders? Because you're free to turn your head a little bit more.
Yeah, he had to concentrate. I'm like socializing, talking to people, but mostly, kind of quiet in your head, just kind of zenning out. I mean, I have the luxury of not having to do that mental work as picking a line, all those things. I feel like it's a totally different experience on the back. I just get to pedal and really just enjoy riding. I mean, it was really freeing for me. I didn't have to really think too much about anything except, looking around and pedaling and talking to people. So it's a totally different experience back there.
And I don't really like to talk when in the course of a race. When we're out having fun, of course I do. But at Leadville, it's like, let's talk about what needs to be talked about and not anything else.
He needed a little encouragement a few times, so I got him through some tough spots.
Of course, she did.
So that was good. That encouragement. You need someone to kind of talk through the ups and downs of the race,
And it is empowering to ride with a partner like that. It's like we're supportive of each other. And again, she did. I had some tough spots. She's like, sorry, buddy, let's go.
We can do this. Just keep moving. I know you feel like you don't feel so good, but you're going to ride this wave.
So it's really a team effort, and it's sometimes just nice to have an ally.
And you two really, clearly you're great at riding together, talking with each other. I understand not wanting to do a lot of talking when you're racing. The fact is you're going at race pace at 10,000 feet. It's not easy to hold a conversation.
Right.
No, you're using your energy in a different way. Yeah.
But I imagine that other racers had things to say to you. I'm curious what kind of conversations were happening as you passed and were passed by other racers.
We got a lot of
jokes.
There's a lot of jokes, like divorce jokes, and we couldn't do that. There's no way I could do that with my wife or my husband. But we really enjoy it, and people call them divorce machines. We call them relationship accelerator machines. Wherever your relationship is going, the tandem
go there faster.
The tandem will help you get there faster.
Okay, so we're through the flats here, and we've gotten down the pipeline section. And how about the single track now? How do you maneuver through that? There's some turns in there to negotiate. Tell us about some of the technical things going on here, Brent, to get that tandem and your lovely lady through the single track.
My strategy was just to put my front wheel where I wanted it to be. It's kind of like pulling a trailer, though. Your back wheel tracks a little, it cuts off the corner a little bit more. So everything has to be wide. And I may not have been quite as fast as a single in the single track, but we never put a foot down. We rolled through it nicely. And that's where there were people up above us. You kind of go down that single track. It's kind of switchbacking down the side of that hill. So there were people up above us, and everybody just screamed at us and yelled encouragement at us. The single track was fun, actually. And we had ridden it before, so it wasn't a total surprise. But yeah, it's kind of a handful on that long bike. Nothing we couldn't handle.
No doubt. Now, I think that anyone who has ever been on the Leadville course and seen a tandem on the flats thinks, well, that looks awesome. Anyone who's ever been on the Leadville course and seen a tandem as you are working your way up Columbine, and in particular, that final couple miles on the goat trail up to the turnaround, I've thought about tandeming and thought I could never. But you two have. So tell us what that part of the race is like, the push up Columbine.
Well, actually, we knew we were going to have to hike a bike, and it was nothing unexpected. I'd had to hike a bike a single anyway. But we moved pretty well. I was even kind of encouraging the people in front of me, hey, can you pick it up? But yeah, it's a little slow go, and we both push. And it's probably similar to just single bike stuff because it's a nice lightweight bike, and it just maybe a little longer and a little more unwieldy.
This gets us to a good point. What's the gearing on the bike there, Brent? I
have SRAM axis. I have a 30-tooth 1x front ring and a 1052 cog. So that's, if you can't climb it on a 30-52, just get off and walk anyway. But again, it's a big bike, and as a combined team, we're 350 pounds, so it certainly climbs differently than a single bike.
Well, thanks for the weight number, 350 pounds. Now coming downhill off Columbine. I mean, can you let the thing run, or can you let the bike just run, or is there a lot of braking?
The brakes were superb, I'm glad to say, but still, it points downhill and rolls over stuff, and other than the forearm pump, really, it wasn't too bad of a descent.
And by the way, is this thing 26-inch, 27.5? What's our wheel size?
29er, yeah.
So big wheels. We're going back to the gear a little bit, but I think Hadi and I are completely novice in this field. So when you are racing a tandem in Leadville, what pressure are your tires set to, and what kind of what width of tires are you rolling?
We're running 2.4s, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact air pressure numbers, but I kept them pretty soft. I was probably 40 in the back and 36 in the front.
Oh, I saw Hottie's eyebrows go up. Mine are up as well. That is a much higher number than I would have expected, but I've never ridden in tandem. I don't know if that's normal or if that's a little hard or if that's a little soft.
I would compare that to the same, what would I say, the same contact patch as my single bike would be. It was not overly hard. I made a point not to go too much air, and I could be a little off on those numbers, but we're running tubeless, and I didn't over air by any means.
So do you know about what time in terms of, hours since you crossed the starting line that you turned around at Columbine?
Yeah, we were turned around at 6:15.
You were looking at that, and I mean, through the traditional number of multiplying by 2, you were looking at probably about a 12:30 finish. Were you feeling pretty good? And I mean, both physically and in your, I guess, emotional state at the time that you crossed the turnaround?
I was hoping for a negative split, that's for sure. And I thought it was a negative split course, all else being equal. I would have liked to get up there a little faster. I would have liked to get everywhere a little faster, but, sometimes
we will next year.
And Michelle, how were you feeling at the turnaround? I mean, this is not only your first time on a tandem, this was your first time racing the Leadville 100 on a bike.
It was really exciting. My paradigm of it was just in awe of just the beauty of it and how lucky to get in. And I felt great the whole time. It was really fun. Definitely wanted to keep pushing and, as fast as we could,
Michelle's pretty unstoppable, I have to say. There's not much that gets to her.
Anything special about your feeds, considering you're on a tandem? I mean, imagine it's a stop, or is it?
Well, we're both CTS coached, so we were able to take advantage of the CTS aid stations, which were pretty quick in and out. We kind of had our own nutrition plans, which of course went to shit towards the end, and that was kind of our downfall. I got a bit dehydrated, and that's hard on the stomach, and the story. But no, we just ate and drank to the best of our ability. A very hot day was a factor.
I think going up Powerline got super hot at the end of the day, and trying to catch up with fluids, and that heat just takes you out, at a long, at the end of the day. So that's where I think we kind of slowed down a bit, but we kept moving. So I think we learned a lot this year. So we're excited about next year and having a different plan.
But also 12 plus hours is a long time to keep up with hydration in Leadville at that temperature, doing what we were doing. And the attrition, we were just kind of a victim of attrition, as opposed to, some horrible mistake, or we didn't really blow. We just kind of faded a little bit,
If pushing up the Columbine climb is hard, if that's a 7, then on a scale of 1 to 10 for difficulty, pushing up the Powerline had to be an 11.
That got us, that was up there.
But it's short, though, it's not a particularly long climb. It's just short and painful, but
it's 4 miles. I guess you can say that's short.
It depends on your paradigm again.
Yeah, that climb is where our hopes for a sub 12 kind of faded away, was trying to get up Powerline inbound.
So where do you get off and start walking on Powerline? And Michelle, what is your role once you two are off the bike?
You have to keep moving no matter how you feel. You got to drink, eat, no matter if you don't want to. That's the only way you're going to finish, but you got to keep moving.
I think Hottie's asking about the mechanics of it too, though. I'm certainly curious. Do both of you push on the bike, or is one of you pushing and one of you walking?
We're both pushing. You both have to push. You can't put that on one person. It's a team sport. That's when the team sport, really is important there,
And Brent, where is the dismount? Where do you get off, or where did you get off for Powerline?
There's one little stretch where that wooden fence is along the left. We rode that, and then you turn to the left, And
pushed up that.
then you turn to the right and it really tips up. That's where we stepped off. And it got to be kind of a slog going up that very first like dirt steep section. But that's where we started pushing. And then it's kind of on and off the rest of the way up, ride some, walk some.
And obviously you did it. And then I imagine that you just flew the Sugarloaf descent and had, I would guess, a very easy time on the Hagerman's descent this year because it was smoother than usual anyway.
Very, very fast. Yeah, we kind of showed our speed down the Hagerman Pass Road. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was really fast.
And then you turn left and you get a little more pavement descent there, and that's where we're like unreasonably fast, which is a lot of fun. After you've just come up powerline, it really felt good to get some wind and speed and feel like you're moving again.
Have you practiced doing a tuck together? Are you both in a super UCI illegal tuck as you're going down on your tandem?
When we're going 50 miles an hour, I don't always know what she's doing back there.
I'm tucking.
Yeah.
But he's so big, like I can tuck and he can't really.
But I do have a kind of a semi-aero hand position. I put some bar ends on the inboard of my handlebars. So they're not quite aero bars, but it gets my hands in and I can get down a little bit. Plus it's just another hand position for a long day.
And we probably should tell our listeners, because we haven't really described the two of you physically. But I know, Brent, as you and I chatted before this conversation, you say you weigh around 200 pounds. So you are a larger man.
I am a larger man. I'm 6'2". And actually, during the training season, and this kind of befuddled me, I gained weight because I lost fat and added a lot of muscle. So I really am more like 210 now, which I've probably put on a pound or two since Leadville just because the training's tapered off a little and the binge eating has occurred. But yeah, I'm a big guy.
And Michelle, it's just the four of us here talking right now. You don't. You look like you were probably between 115 and 125. Pretty good guess. So yeah, and so you're a 350-pound bike, but obviously you are punching a big hole in the wind, Brent. And when you get to, and that is all well and good, but then of course you are at the climb from May Queen to the Carter aid station and the half mile beyond. You had how many hours in your legs at that point? 10 plus hours.
That's where we stopped being able to put the power down and make up time. And that was just like, okay, we'll have to just get up this hill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lesson for every racer out there, right? I mean, you knew what your timing was looking like and what your odds of finishing under the goal you had set for yourselves. It sounds like you were hoping for under 12. You saw that slipping away, but you did not give up.
There was a moment of disappointment. My moment of disappointment was when the math quit working going up powerline. It's like all of a sudden you realize there is no way we're going to go sub 12. We just don't, we can't make up the time. We don't have the legs. We're behind schedule. But then it's like, but this is so much fun. We're so grateful to be able to do this because we're not 25-year-old people anymore. And just to be able to get there and have such a beautiful day and such a beautiful race venue and to be able to have such a beautiful bike and
Plan B. It's like, let's just keep going and have fun.
Let's just go have fun. Yeah.
Tell us about that run into town. We get up on the boulevard there. What was that like?
We had ridden the boulevard in practice, but I had never raced on the boulevard. So
that's part of the run. So I was telling him, I'm like, oh, we got one more big climb here, honey.
But
it wasn't too bad.
We finished solid. I'd say we probably rallied a little bit after we kind of shook off that power line climb, and we had a solid finish. We were happy and smiling, and we weren't doing a death march. You know, it was fun. We knew we were going to finish, and here we are about to cross the finish line at Leadville. That's always a good feeling, kind of regardless. We were going to be official finishers. So it was just hard to be anything but happy and grateful.
So how long did it take you to say, yeah, let's do that again? And what do you think you'll do differently?
Oh, immediately.
We decided right afterwards, we're doing that again.
Yeah, we're doing that again.
Right away.
What I'll do differently is lose weight. Here I am, 210. Back in the triathlon days, I was probably 180 or 185. Now, I'm not fat, but you don't have to be fat to be too heavy to climb powerline on a tandem. So weight loss will be my number one priority. I'll train with a coach. I didn't feel prepared to ride a tandem for 12 and a half hours. It was a long day. So I have a lot of longer events on my planned schedule for next year. That's my strategy. I'll continue with the coach, and that's always, high intensity stuff indoors. I'll do plenty of that, but I'll do some longer events. Actually, we plan to enter Unbound on a tandem.
Michelle, how about you? What are you going to try to do different for next year's?
Oh boy, some more power, just some more intervals. I have endurance. It's just the power, just doing those intervals up the hills. And so I'll incorporate that into my running as well.
And then a week later, you'll be in the run, right? And what is Brent's role for you in the run? Does he pace?
I won't run. I'll crew her if she wants me to.
My girlfriends will run. I don't need a crew. Just to see him out there.
You two are an inspiration. You absolutely are. I love the positivity you bring to this race and the fun that you had on a very long, very difficult day. And one thing that you're going to have next year that you did not have this year? Another 12 months on that bike.
Yeah, exactly. and experience at Leadville is a big thing. And
you know what to expect.
I'm not surprised that we didn't quite make it the first time. That's not really unexpected, but I fully intend to make it right the second time.
We'll be faster this year.
And I know you're relatively new to the tandem game here, but what would you tell other couples, other duos considering a tandem at Leadville?
You have to have the right paradigm to make it fun and to make it work, so there's a lot of over communicating before you want to do it, make sure you're all on the same page mentally, and physically, and what your goals are and what you want out of the experience, so I think if you're on the same page, you'll have a great time.
I don't think we could say anything better or more. You two, I am looking forward to seeing you both at the starting line and the finish line in 2022.
Thank you. We're very
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, what do you think, Fatty? Could you do this? Could you and the Hammer survive a day together on a tandem at Leadville?
I gotta admit, I am tempted, Hottie. But you know who's not tempted? The Hammer. She has made it clear we will continue to have a 1-to-1 bike-to-rider ratio on every ride for the rest of our lives. Besides, I don't think we could ever come to any kind of agreement on which of us would be the captain.
As you heard in the interview, Brent and Michelle had help with their feeds from their coaches. If only all of us could have that. Instead, most of us are left to develop feed strategies on our own. But guess what? You're not alone. And in fact, you can have the next best thing to putting your coach in the feed zone.
Sure can. And that is by going to the feed. The feed cannot be there at Twin Lakes for you, but they can make sure you have everything you need once you get there, whether that be a feed from your crew or what you put in your drop bags.
The feed has based its business around empowering athletes to put together an accurate feeding strategy and delivering food and drink they need to compete and complete grueling rides like the Leadville 100.
The feed has a massive selection of energy products, hydration mixes, and recovery tools. You can easily put together a great fueling strategy by going to the feed, browsing around, and if you get there and it seems a little overwhelming, then the feed can hook you up with a nutrition consultant to help you get it all sorted out.
Yeah, so it's like having a coach in the feed zone after all. Get what you need for race day from the feed by going to thefeed.com. And remember to do that / thing and put the word Leadville there to get a 15% discount on all your orders. Another thanks to our Tandem team, Michelle Schwartz and Brent Davis. I don't know if what they did would work for every couple, but it's sure right for them, and we wish them all the luck in the 2022 edition.
Yeah, and we're also going to be rooting for Michelle as she follows up the mountain bike 100-mile race with the Leadville 100 run. Until we talk again, you can hear from me on Twitter at Fat Cyclist. Hottie likes to Instagram. He is at Michael Houghton. And of course, we're both on the Facebook Leadville 100 Mountain Bike Participants page.
If you like the show, go to wherever you listen and give us a 5-star rating and write a review. Now, for years, the dominant force in podcasts and the places where you've been writing the reviews has been Apple Podcasts. And I've had some fun recently, the last couple shows, with those Siri call-outs. But, Fatty, I read recently that the podcast platform race has gotten a little tighter, with Spotify significantly closing the gap on Apple Podcasts. Rest assured, folks, we are on Spotify, too. To see all the ways you can find the show, it's new and easy to remember. That's Leadville.fm.
Yep, the old one still works, too, but Leadville.fm is a lot easier to remember. I can remember it, for example. So good luck in your riding, your racing, and your recovery. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you at the Leadville 2022 starting line. And hopefully we'll be able to recognize you because you will be wearing our kit, which you can find at leadville.fm/kit.
It never stops. You're still hawking product right to the end.
Hey, microphones and hosting services are expensive. We got bills to pay, Audie.